MUTHERFUQERS.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Us podcast, level 2.
A podcast about us.
It's all of us. Foo.
Dang, and we're getting super barrio vato up in this episode.
We're straight up owning it in this one.
We're about to bring back our caricatures from Quesorama. Hey, what's up, Bessie?
They also made a brief return in the Chicano review, and we're just like, hey, what's up, carnals?
Oh,
It's
we
the
did.
Us podcast.
But today, as you can obviously see, we have a very special guest here with us today. It's not a guest episode. It's not a...
Still just the name, Chris Angel episode.
Yeah, we're calling it a roundtable.
There you go.
A roundtable
Coined
of
actually
foos.
by our guest right here.
Hello, everybody.
What's
So-
up? What's your name?
Tell people who you is.
My name's Sarah Neal. I am a writer / producer.
Fuck yes.
from
ICF alumni.
ICF alum.
Inner City Filmmakers.
Inner City Filmmakers.
Lifelong
Yeah, for everyone
podcast
who's
fans will know.
For everyone who's keeping tabs, this is a fucking round table of ICFers up in here.
Yeah, for those who haven't had context, Inner City Filmmakers, that's the film program. Me and Angel became acquainted, and now
we could have all kind of met
we're
there,
all
like
products
in
there.
different forms.
And then you and I met there,
Mhm.
different years, but
And then
yeah,
still going strong. This is
still going
Proof.
strong.
This is proof that friendships last.
and that Hollyfoos is happening.
Boom, Hollyfoos. So, Chris, can you explain to the lovely audiences at home what the heck is Hollyfoos?
Hollyfoos is thank you for asking. Wow. Hollyfoos is I guess is it a phrase or is it a slang? It's
A
just
movement,
it's a
maybe?
movement.
Movement?
It's also I don't know, it's a term. It's a term we coined for this new wave of like brown foods because there's I feel like
Brown filmmakers
yeah,
specifically.
but more specifically like young brown filmmakers. Because right now there's a lot of brown filmmakers that are like having their day right now, which is really exciting. But it's like it's still like, and this could be biased, but it also feels like, yeah, but like that's not what's gonna change the landscape.
That's not what's gonna be
no, that opens the door and allows us in. But we're the traviesos that are gonna like fuck shit up.
That's true. And so we're doing this episode because me and Chris were going to do an episode about like Latinos and Hollywood representation. And then yesterday, Sarah literally just texted me.
Today.
It was today?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
this
it
was
it
Angel literally calling today. It's like, yo, can we do this? Can we bring this person on?
Because Sarah, explain the text message. Like, what prompted the text message that you sent me?
Essentially, there is a competition for Latinx people to submit scripts, and we have been reading some of the like scripts that got selected, and they're trash. They're terrible, and
shots.
not just terrible in the sense of content, like in structure and everything, like terrible in representation. Like I felt personally offended as a brown person reading this shit.
Damn.
Like I had to stop a couple of times.
There you go. It's
Beautiful.
not just me and Chris complaining.
Yeah, we're not
about
the
this
ones talking shit.
shit. Like, that shit's
Fucking
happening.
Haters.
And like I gotta preface, this is my experience and everything, and other people reading them, obviously they liked them, they made them into this list, but
Well, it sounds like
All
you're
it-
angry. Yeah.
I'm angry, and I assume I'm not the only one.
No, you're
feeling
not.
This.
You're not. But I feel like, at least me in particular, I feel like I've kind of bored myself to death with why I'm angry. But I honestly want to hear what particularly makes you angry, because there's different things that make me angry, different things that make Angel angry.
It's true.
I think I want to begin this by asking, like, I don't know, because you're obviously you're different because you have longer hair than me. No.
I would love it. It's like, because, well, you like have like a different perspective because like.
Well,
I would fucking love that.
dude, that would be perfect. Like 2018, Chris, be like, well, yeah.
Because like, let's face it.
Yeah.
Let's face it. Oh God!
Oh my God.
Let's not having these fits. Back to the question.
Yeah.
Yes. So what particularly are you angry about? Like what makes you so fearless to literally come on a platform like this and be like straight up, y'all suck? Like what?
I
what
need to.
I know. I want to know what brought you to that point of anger. Yeah. Fill me in.
Yeah,
Man.
literally, Sarah was like,
Where to begin?
if you ever talk about this, put me on because I have things to say.
Yeah.
And I was like, guess what we're doing tonight?
I know, we're blowing up. So I guess one of the thing that like really sent me over the no, let me back up. Where do I begin? Okay, so I already said, structurally, story-wise, some of these scripts, I just couldn't believe they were on this best of list. But that's a reoccurring theme, like brown writers, white writers, whatever. I've just read some fucking trash scripts that I cannot believe get to the point that they are. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with creating things that are subpar if that's what the other person wants to do, like you mentioned there's a space for movies that are at this level and then there's a space for movies that are at this level. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean they can't all coexist at the same time.
And now when you say that, what movies in particular you were about to list off examples?
Crazy Rich Asians. Fucking suck. Stop making them, but they're never going to stop.
They're never going to stop.
And people are going to say maybe it's because it's not my culture and people feel like a strong pull to it. Like a lot of people thought Roma was fucking boring,
Yeah, a lot of like national Mexicans like did not like that movie. They said it was like aimless and stuff.
Yeah, and so like there's a space for like, oh, it's not hurting anybody or whatever, but it just gets me it gets me angry, especially when shit like El Chicano gets fucking made and shit like Papi Chulo.
Yeah.
Oh God, we didn't even talk about Papi Chulo on this, but
One day we're coming for you, Papi Chulo.
Yeah, we're coming for you,
One of
Papi
these
Chulo.
fucking days.
We have unintentionally bad movies to get to first before we get to you. But it sounds like I guess I wanted to ask too, because we're talking about obviously brown people. How do you feel about the word Latinx?
I don't like it because
Really?
It's an all-encompassing term that just is like an easy fix to like lump brown people in this country all together, This term literally doesn't exist in Latin America. You've got Mexican people, you've got Guatemalans, you've got Panamanian people, you know what I mean? And then they come here and they're Latinx. And it's like all of their like specific identities and cultural differences and nuances and even like indigenous languages, they just get erased.
Do you think though that, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but do you think that the reason people do that, why they market kind of like Latinx, it almost feels like you guys, or y'all mentioned this earlier in the show, that it feels that like Latinx is just like a net word, just to encompass a whole.
Dude, for sure, like that's what Sarah's talking about, just kind of like your culture gets erased, like you're not Honduran anymore, you're not, unless you're speaking to other people from freaking Central America, like you wouldn't even, no one even cares or even knows what a Honduran is, what an El Salvadorian is.
So then I want to pose this question to the both of you. What do you say to an executive that says, well, how do you market that? How, like, that is such a niche thing. Like, it makes more sense to put it under this net. I'm playing devil's advocate here. But if they were to give you that argument, because that's how I ration those things in my head. I'm like, I think about it. I'm like, yeah, it sucks that we get minimalized into like just one thing. I'm like, but in a way, white people are too. There are some Scottish people. There's Australian. I
gotta say though, they're very vocal about their heritage.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not saying it's any better, but it's like I guess it depends on how people take that. Like, do they think it's them trying to discredit, or just like I'm just making it easier on everybody to express or to describe a specific group of people?
Well, just in my experience,
and I'm playing devil's advocate here. This isn't my belief.
Well, just in my experience,
Everyone's like,
what the fuck, Chris? What are you saying? I'm playing devil's advocate. I half believe it.
As a biracial person, as you haven't noticed, I have the whitest fucking name alive.
I didn't know we had
Sarah
logic
Neal.
on the podcast.
Oh shit.
The white side of my family, like, my God, they were just like, we're Irish, we're German, we're English, like very vocal, like don't get it twisted, we're not Italian, we're not French, you know what I mean? Like that type of bullshit. And
I'm not a dirty Italian.
Basically. What? It's okay, I'm white too.
And then on the Mexican side of my family, like we are Mexican, but people who didn't know that, they would just say like just call us Mexican without asking, you know what I mean? And like my mom is a woman of indigenous heritage. Like she cannot be confused like with any like white passing type of thing, but all of a sudden they were just like, you're Mexican. Like that's like you just get labeled in that box. Like I said, we do just happen to be Mexican, but with a lot of my friends, I know that happens to them. They're Salvadorian, they're Guatemalan, you know.
They're just like Mexican.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing. We're all just one giant country.
And I will also say, I think there's more interest in European differences than Central American differences. So that people like, it's like, oh, Italian culture. Oh, you know, there's like a romance to it.
We were just having a conversation in the car. People are more willing to learn fucking Alden Ehrenreich than Yalitza Aparicio.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the difference? It's the same amount of confusing.
Yeah, one of my coworkers was like, if people can learn how to pronounce Schwarzenegger, they can fucking learn how to say your name.
Exactly. And so, Angel, you are just coming hot off of a WME internship.
Yes.
And I know both of you want to touch on this, but what was your take on the Latino representation within that building? Give us the lowdown.
It could be better, especially in the bigger positions of power, I think.
Considering that 50% of LA is Latinx.
Exactly. And then there's like
50, really?
Yeah.
I thought it'd be more.
It might be more at this point. That's the last statistic I read.
Yeah, it could be better. But what I liked about it is that there was like a close-knit, you know, circuit, I guess. I don't know.
Of the few you
Latinos,
met.
they banded together to form this like life raft there.
Was there like a nickname like the Beanbag Boys?
the
Beaner Boys?
The Beanerbag Boys?
The Beanerbag Boys. Sorry, little joke.
They were
Little joke.
Go watch Good Boys.
Good Boys is good.
I don't know. I don't think they had a nickname, but they were. It felt good when I found out that they existed. Then it didn't feel so, like, fucking othered. Because, dude, it was
What does that mean, othered? Again?
When it's like when a group of people makes you feel like not a part of that group, and then you feel like an other person in this group.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
That's the best I can do to describe that shit.
And Sarah, so have you had any interactions with Latinos or I guess Latinx or what? I say brown. I prefer brown. I think that covers my bases and people don't get offended. I just say we're just a bunch of brown kids and like they get it. I think that like saves me the trouble of having to have like the discussion. Brown's just easier. It's like, you know, I don't know. It just sounds cooler and sweeter. But I wanted to ask, have you ever had any experience in particular with any Latinos in the workspace?
I have, but as Angel mentioned, it's way, 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 way too like small of a number. I used to work at a company of 120 people in the entertainment space, and I want to say there were maybe like 5 of us. And it felt almost like the sunken place sometimes because we would just see each other in the hallway and like acknowledge each other visually or something. You know what I mean?
Like, I see you.
Yeah. I see you. And when I got closer to one of my brown coworkers, we even like did verbally acknowledge it. Like we have to have each other's back and like look out for each other. You know what I mean?
Like, hey, kid.
So 5 out of 120, you said?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, so then the question now for me becomes just because I'm curious. Did you find that those like 5 people were particularly smart, or was it just like a random lot of folk, or were they 5 the only 5 for a reason because they're so good at what they do?
Just by coincidence, I think, but maybe this could be a bigger thing. They were all technically skilled, so they had to have experience,
Meaning,
with editing software.
So we're still workman stuff.
Mixing, things like that. There were no brown executives. There were no brown producers or anything like that.
Okay, so
no brown copywriters. Like,
okay, so nobody in like a high field, just
yes.
Like no authority. And then that brings
no, I take that back. There was one brown producer. She was not Latinx. She was of Middle Eastern descent, and she was a temp producer. So she wasn't even there like full time.
There you go.
And saying that like in person, like when you hear the numbers, like you can just imagine kind of how staggering it is, like to visually see it. But you've seen it. What does that say to you?
Says to me that, you know, Hollywood is becoming more diverse. I will agree, but not at the rate that it should be. And there is active discrimination against brown people.
I wonder why that is. Do you have any takes? Because I mean, brown people. I mean, we're kind of. I mean, right now, like I think the number one music in the world is. I don't want me to sound like an NPR person here, but I think the number one music in the world right now is fucking J Balvin shit.
J Balvin.
Yeah, J Balvin shit. Like
the number one listen to.
Is that's not reggaeton? Is it? Is it?
Yeah, he's
okay.
reggaeton.
Then reggaeton. Like that's number one music.
Reggaeton,
so
reggaeton.
we are becoming cooler in a sense, but like, what do you think the holdback is for us?
It's like
Why are we a harder pill to swallow?
I feel like we're only accepted when people like want something from us. Like you know, being fucking like reggaeton is cool. So people like now they like J Balvin because he's like a cool like a cool guy, and like listening to Latin music is like sexy. Drake's on a song, Cardi B. You know, it's like super popular, but like nobody gives a fuck about these kids in cages. You know, like you'll listen to J Balvin and not give a fuck about human rights when it comes to Latino people. Like there's that disconnect where they like us when we're fucking big and glamorous and like superstars, but when it comes to the real issues, I'm like, I don't want to.
But that's an issue that the black community faces as well. You know, that like white people or just lighter skinned people will consume black media and it's entertainment, but then don't have the same sort of like compassion when they're getting killed by police.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
They become that meme.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Or when there was a meme a while ago that I saw when it was like white people like Martin Luther King wouldn't agree with these riots, and then like a quote from Martin Luther King like a riot is the voice of the
Martin Luther King, number one direct action hero. We need to fucking take lead and stand up the way he did.
Yeah,
he was not a peaceful man.
What did he say? He said a riot is like the voice of the unheard or something like that. And then there's like a picture of a white person like, like I don't hear it.
So Sarah, when you hear us like joke about white people and stuff like that,
about
like,
half of your
like, what is that like? Does that like? How do you feel about that? How does your family feel about that? Like, I wonder, does anybody in your family ever come to you with the experience of? Because I feel like white people are a lot more scrutinized now, and like now, like that, it's an insult that's thrown back at them. So, have your parents ever been like white shamed before, to your knowledge? And how does it make you feel? Because it is part of you.
Yeah. Well, the white side of my family is my father's side, and we're not close in the slightest. They're very, very weird people who live in a farm in Pennsylvania that I met when I was like 2 years old. Whoa. So that just kind of says that.
There you go.
Raised by my mom's side of the family, Mexican side of the family. So that's what I feel. Identify closer to them, especially growing up in Southern California, and also like, you know, kind of passing more as a brown person. That's just how I've been treated. But I guess I used to get like a little like butthurt about it, but then I had to identify my own privilege in being a lighter skinned person, and
I wouldn't know what that feels like.
It's
I'm just kidding.
Because as we've established,
trick me.
as we've established before,
I'm not brown enough. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, but then I guess I had to like examine my own privilege and why I was getting so like upset. Or not upset. I wasn't that upset, but you know, feeling like a little bit defensive and stuff. And I just had to examine history and like, man, people of color have been fucked over for all of history up until maybe about 50 years ago. Then they started getting some rights, but it's still not like, you know,
it's not enough.
Like I learned yesterday that our Constitution is the only Constitution in like the modern, you know, whatever you want to call it, first world countries that doesn't have explicit protection for women, and that includes women of color.
America was like,
yeah,
protection,
like equal rights, protection.
Because when the Constitution was made, men.
Right.
Men.
Yeah. But how are women not protected? I'm just genuinely curious.
There's literally no amendment. No, there's literally no amendment that says like men and women have equal rights and like should be protected in the same way.
The reason why we're doing it now is just because just under the assumption it's like, well, Now it's open to
exactly.
you. It's
but
just like an unspoken
we're
thing.
the
That's
only
scary.
modern country that doesn't have that. Like our whole basis, our whole country was founded in white supremacy. The Constitution was founded for white landowners, and that was 230 years ago. That shit has trickled down. That's a very recent thing, you know. Like we are a baby country, and that shows like in the wealth, what do you want to call it? Like being not spread out evenly, you know? That's why a lot of like white people, they own a majority of the wealth and they get to make ultimately like tying back to this media decisions because they make what they want to see. And I'm not trying to make this like an anti-white rant or anything.
And to quote our first episode, a
Genocide!
God. I'm not trying to make like an anti-white, you know, thing. I like hope one day we can move on and just, you know, look past color, but we got a long way to go. But just in our history, this is a country. This is a country founded for white male landowners, and that language has never been removed.
Like as if we're in
You're
a college.
speaking the truth, sweetheart.
Dude, Chris is getting woke right now. Dude,
I'm getting woke every day this year, and I'm just
you gotta
like,
get angry.
I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, Reagan was a piece of shit.
Oh man.
And I'm like, that's just the tip of the
That's
iceberg.
a whole
Fuckface.
podcast in itself.
Yeah,
That's a
I
whole
bet.
episode.
Stay
So,
tuned for the Reagan
Steering
episode.
back so that way our filmmaker audience don't get alienated. I want to talk about writers that are popping right now. Movies that are coming out right now. We got that Dora movie. Hell yeah.
No, dude, we're so good on representation. We got Dora
Dude,
the Explorer, and
That's we got Dora in the bag.
dude, we got Dora. We got Dora and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh my god, side note.
That was a funny joke.
One time I was
It got cut. I was gonna laugh, and then she said side note. I'm like, sorry, Angel, you lost the laugh.
One time I was working on this movie as this director's assistant, and this like crazy ass producer walked into the office and she goes, I was thinking about what everybody looks like as a cartoon character. And then she looked me straight in the eye and was like, you look like Dora the Explorer.
Whoa.
And there was like really awkward. I didn't know what to do. I was just like, all right. And then the director, it was a white blonde lady, was like, what do I look like? And then the producer didn't have anything to add. And she was like, okay, I guess we'll just like workshop it. So I was like, was this woman driving in her car for like 30 minutes?
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it to her. I'm gonna go right up to her fucking face, and I'm gonna goddamn say it.
It's like, honey, don't do it. What? She does look like Dora the Explorer.
I can't help it.
It's like, honey, don't. It's like,
Please,
not a
Margaret,
bad
don't
thing.
do it. Don't do it. Don't tell the kid she looks like Dora. I need it. It must be said.
I think the crew is gonna think it's funny. Don't do it.
Have a backup name, sweetheart. They're not gonna need a backup name.
What if someone asked you what they look like?
What are we doing? Talk to me about Latino writers.
I want to. Sarah, you mentioned earlier. You mentioned the words like it's not enough or whatever.
Actually, just
And
kidding.
yeah, actually, can we talk about this?
Go.
I want to talk about. You said it's not enough, and that reminded me about how we were talking about all these movies that we're getting. Yeah, Latino representations like Dora the Explorer. For me, it's not enough. I don't want this shit.
No, it's not.
I don't want this shit, and I don't know why everyone's in it. And this is going back to our El Chicano episode, but it's like, you have fucking like Eugenio Derbez and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I hear it's harmless, but it's like that is literally the only one we got, and it's high key embarrassing, dude.
Yeah.
Are you embarrassed by Dora the Explorer having like, obviously looking like Dora the Explorer?
Yeah, 'cause as someone who looks exactly like Dora the Explorer.
That's the doppelganger.
How do you feel? How does that make you feel, Dora?
I mean,
That's really good.
goodbye.
Oh god, I'm scared of shit. Sorry, go ahead.
Calling my publicist. I guess I haven't given Dora too much thought just because I have no interest in seeing it. Like, I guess I want to get to a point where I can consume media that has Latinx people in it, but is not Latinx focused. It's not just shoved down your throat all the fucking time.
That's all I ever advocate for, dude. Like, it's just like I always say, it's just normalizing browns. Like, that's the only thing I ever want to do.
Right. And I actually wanted to bring up, because I was thinking about, like, where have I seen good representation of a brown storyline or character or something? Oscar fucking Martinez from The Office. Nailed it.
Really?
Nailed it. Because you don't think about the fact that he's brown. That's not what you're focused on. You know what I mean? But it's not like he doesn't have like authentic experiences to his life. He speaks Spanish. Occasionally he will bring up something that is relevant to like being in a brown existence. He's just like an amazing, normal character. Wow. Like that's just what I aspire for, basically.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Which is your point. Like, you don't even think about it.
You don't think about it.
Another one that people don't talk about, too, and I always advocate for it, but George Lopez. Like, I think... I'll tell you... No, dude, even though I think that is the best brown... I was going to say podcast. Sitcom we've ever had. I think that will remain like better than fucking 8 Days a Week or whatever the fuck that other show's called.
8 days a week.
One day at a time, or fucking whatever
That's
other.
the only sitcom.
No, there's another brown one.
Another brown sitcom?
There might be, but like of all those I've seen, George Lopez will remain the one that like did the brown humor with the most subtlety. Believe it or not, from a guy that goes, "What's I got this!" Like that. Yeah, that guy had subtlety. Believe it or not. If you go back and look at the show, it's just I guess because this was closer to my childhood, but it was a middle class family. Like the dad was a manager at a warehouse, had these two white bosses, and literally that was my dad.
That's true.
And so that was like, I was like, oh, this is cool. It's like they had a nicer house and everything. But I'm like, but like roughly like mom, dad, like same thing. Like siblings that can't get along.
Yeah.
And none of the episodes ever made it about their, not like if you go back, it's all just about a wacky situation that George gets in with Ernie or whatever. It's rarely about being brown, and I kind of love that because it's just a part of them, and the stories come from the funny writing, but specific to them. But like this, the reason why it's specific to them, it's because they're brown. So it's like low key. It's low key like well represented, just in a quiet way. So
they're just normal people.
Yeah, they're
like normal fucking people.
Like the humor or not, the storylines will always revolve around interfamily relationships, slut shaming or bullying, like to an extent where families need to move schools or stuff like that. Like,
Whoa.
I look back at it fondly, and I like rewatching clips on YouTube because I'm like, this is like. I guess this is why I don't feel the frustration y'all felt. Like feel like you've come to me before. So like, I've never seen anything like that truly makes me feel. And I'm like I kind of have like in that show, and so maybe I like because I had access to Nick at Night.
I did not.
Yeah, so maybe that it's like things like that. It was that privilege.
Oh,
though,
wow,
but,
Chris, your privilege is really showing right now.
Yeah, it's really shining.
I got Nick at Night. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think that's why. I think that's one that doesn't get talked about enough, and probably won't. I don't know if maybe we keep advocating for it. I know I just like totally gang your fucking last movie, El Chicano, dude. But
George Lopez,
but like that George Lopez really. I hope people will look back at the show years from now and be like, yo, this show was actually really like just a normal show. Like anybody could watch this show, even people like white or like black people on Twitter, they're always tweeting about it. Like, oh, you remember waking up at 3 a.m. to see the theme song?
Dude,
how great is that theme song opening, dude? We've parodied it like twice.
Dude, falling asleep, waking up to George Lopez. The low
rider. Yeah, so that's I know I kind of went on a whole thing about that, but that's something
looks
I personally
looks like Chris still loves George Lopez.
I do.
So you're still gonna work with him?
I would love to.
Even when he's doing that fucking other like that immigrant movie that remember we saw.
Oh yeah, he's doing. Look, I mean, at this point, if he's watching, he's like, dude, I'm not gonna work with you. But but I would remain to do so because he still is a staple of. It's like Adam Sandler. Like you don't just quit on him just because he does fucking Jack and Jill. There's still a real artist in there. So
or
you bring
like
him out for something like Uncut Gems.
5 other terrible.
Oh yeah,
but you see. When Adam Sandler makes a bad movie, people don't go, "Oh, all white people are fucking dumb."
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah. you know. But
Yeah.
when George Lopez makes a movie,
It's a strong point.
and he goes, "Fuck Mexicans," maybe
Damn
that
it, George.
maybe that hurts the community a little more
Well-
than Adam Sandler in a fucking fat suit.
Well, also there's just like there's the normal movies, aka the white movies, and then there's the Latinx brown films.
hate.
And when they don't do well, executives go, I guess they
See,
don't.
they can't. Yeah, they can't. They can't
don't-
open a movie.
You
Even though-
see? You see?
Even though Latina women are the most likely to give new media and consumption a chance. Like they are the first spenders statistically. It's just like this huge market, money left on the table because of fucking racism. Like,
Some guys like, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
see it. I don't.
yeah.
I mean, I saw
Do they-
Chicano.
do they like
Didn't
movies?
do that well.
Do they have cell phones?
Just like, what about that Alfonso guy?
I think that's why I'm really big though on concept first, at least when I write anything, because I want it to be where like the story alone, regardless of the people in it, are much more valuable.
I just want to say, like, really quickly, touching on not being portrayed in movies. There's this really great article that Chris Rock did, I think, for the Hollywood Reporter. It was one of the trades.
I think I read what you're talking about.
And
yes.
he was talking about, how many Latinx people, I think he used the term Mexican, but let's just
Yeah.
call them brown people. How many brown people there are in LA, and he said, you basically have to be trying not to hire brown people.
100%.
Like,
Yeah,
if
I
there's
remember that.
anybody listening that is not familiar with LA or not from here, like, we're
There's
everywhere.
a lot
We're
of us.
everywhere. We are the majority minority. if you
Yeah,
wanna call
Damien
it.
Chazelle. No,
Yeah.
You fucking
No,
piece
call
of
that
shit.
fool out.
Fuck you. Hey, fuck you. Next time I see you at
I'm sorry, Damien. I know what that caused. I'll text you later.
Just kidding. Just kidding. David Chazelle, I think you're a cool guy, but fuck, man. Where the fuck are the brown
Where
people?
the brown people at?
Don't worry, I'll make the brown one.
Chris is like, don't listen to him, David.
don't
to
listen,
him."
Damien.
Well, that was great.
I
First
don't
man-
get it. I loved it. It was a masterpiece.
It's like, we're not finished talking, Damien.
I loved
God.
it, Damien. No, I'm just kidding.
But dude, I totally agree. You have to be fucking trying not to include brown people in your fucking movies,
Right.
in your work, in your team.
And I do have to say that actually I've seen a lot of diversity when I'm working on set behind the scenes. I think that's getting a lot better from what I've seen just in my experience. But in terms of like the office exec level where stories are being commissioned, where they're being financed, like stories are being chosen to go to production, terrible. Fucking terrible.
it's
Yeah.
great. It's a shitty
Dora.
system, but I kind of do like that there is a prove yourself kind of energy now to when brown people write stuff. At least right now, because I think when you capture a moment where people are frustrated, that's when you just get the things that really hit the hardest.
I believe in the opposite.
Interesting.
I think right now people are so angry about all the shit that's happening to us that the stories that we're making are so pandering, and they're more equivalent to a PSA than an actual film or a story. Like they're just like, oh, undocumented immigrants, and then they fucking make
Yeah.
a story about undocumented immigrants, but it's not like a fucking interesting story that I want to follow with interesting characters with interesting character arcs. It's just like, doesn't it suck being undocumented? Look at all the hardships we have to go through.
Yeah, it's trauma porn.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, it's like the stories that you're seeing from being made into a movie to like winning a diversity like fellowship to even getting into college. It's like, I had a single mom and we were on welfare and I'm like, every fucking thing that you could imagine. Like, I'm in a wheelchair. Like, you really have to like sell yourself out about how terrible your life is, like, as a person of color.
I slept on the floor the first 17 years of my life.
Don't you?
Yeah.
I would counter that point back with. At least I would, maybe just because this is just who I am, but I would chalk it up to, those people just aren't talented writers
The ones that
are doing the pandering stuff. Like, it's not about. I wouldn't blame the time. I blame the writers.
Oh no, I mean also just like the people that are getting selected for like
Right,
fellowships
yeah.
and scholarships. That's
Total
like
total like weak weak sauce. Sorry.
No, but like
In
the
my
people,
opinion.
the people
No,
who are like saying their own like personal stories, and I'm not trying to belittle poverty. Like it is a very racist system, like as we talked about before. But the people that get chosen, I feel like are the ones that have to like really ham it up about how difficult their life is as a brown person, and then the people who are selecting these recipients, mostly white people, those are the ones that like really hit home because they're like, oh, I can help.
How
this person.
we have to put our saddest stories like on our sleeve in order to get noticed.
I haven't had to do
No.
that. I haven't had to do that.
That's
I
true.
know it's not a big company. I know there's different stakes, but there was and we've talked about this on the show before where I when I turned in the script for Instant Crush, one of the notes was like, can we make it more Mexican? And I just gave Cindy like, now she has a Mexican handbag, and I changed another little thing too, but. I think if you come in with the energy of this is what I'm doing and this is how I want to do it, which I know a lot of writers are you've said this before to me, like, Chris, not everyone is like, I guess, strong-willed as you. And I'm starting to recognize that, but I feel like, especially when you're going to go into a field like this where you're, think of it this way, we're all kind of being our own little stockbrokers. We're playing with people's money. We're making art, but we're playing with people's money. And I think that you need to have an energy and a spirit thick enough to endure the winnings or the repercussions. And that's why I've always championed for people to be more strong-willed, because I'm like, you're gonna, like, it's not even about like the world. It's just like shit happens. Sometimes fucking things go wrong, or sometimes you lose money. It's like, and you're gonna have to know that you can't go and run to a room and or like you can, but like you can't just cry about it and cry for it to go away. Like, you're gonna have to like suck up to things, own up to problems, pay for things yourself, and that's why I think it's important that those people. I don't know. I think it's important to look at the writers. I wouldn't blame the situation. I don't think the lack of is the problem. It is the problem, but it's not why we're not getting good stories. I think it's the writers themselves. I would always blame the writers.
You think the writers that are being chosen are bad?
Yeah, I think not bad, but I just think that they're not like, they're just, because it's like you said, it's like what people are looking for.
It's the same situation as like rap. It's like
I don't think they're getting the real shit.
They rap about like do like illegal shit because that's what people want to hear, and so this is like it's a system that perpetuates this shit. It's like people that glorify these shitty situations, but the people consuming that aren't in those situations.
But that's why I don't even feel bad that I have not. I mean, I've never, granted I never applied, but I don't feel bad about not being accepted onto like these fucking Latin whatever lists, because I'm like, these scripts are like, first of all, it's what white people are looking for, but it's also what our beaners are looking for too, you know.
Chris's favorite.
I had to throw a little meme.
Hey, we
there.
gotta be inclusive.
Yeah,
Our
exactly.
brownies.
Brownies, excuse me. Yeah, it's just, but it's what like what the brown executives want too. And I actually have a gripe against brown executives. Just the one little thing. I feel like a lot of brown executives are way too clutched onto like their old head ways, that anything new or weird, like they're just gonna brush it off, and they only ever celebrate it, you know, if it makes some kind of impact.
That's true.
Like, if you think about Blind Spotting, like, Blind Spotting's fucking unique as fuck, and nobody believed in it.
Yeah.
It totally got dicked.
Yeah.
And I think when I saw that, it made me feel good, because I'm like, okay, good. So now I know what to expect. You know, that at least in the beginning, things that aren't about a hot topic, things that aren't dour and depressing, or just like hardship Latino movies. They may or they may not fare well, but I think that's why we're tired. I mean, overall, I'm tired of I'd rather see those movies fail, but at least be in theaters, than to see movies, big Hollywood, whatever movies like Dora, like make all this money and be like, oh, God, they think this is what we want.
But people, I think the general population, that is what they want. I think. And
That's what you think?
I mean, like.
I mean, I don't know. I'm asking.
Dora's making a lot of money, right? Like all these.
But kids' movies always make money. Like that's the number one genre. Like kids and action films.
I want to hold on to the fact. I want to believe that people want more, but I'm not seeing it. And then when we see like lists and programs and all these things, and the stuff feels so subpar.
Yeah.
It makes me think. What does it make me think? I don't know. it's just a difficult situation.
Well, something that really frustrates me, and like you said, we're playing with people's money. So there's a lot on the line. So I think Hollywood plays it safe, right? Because they're like, what am I going to get for my return? I can't take a chance. But we are literally tastemakers. Like, if you start making enough movies in a certain area, people will watch them.
Oh, hell yeah.
You get me? And
hell
it really
That's why I'm
frustrates
always
me
an
that
advocate
people
for
don't
shooting
see
your own
that.
stuff. Yeah.
So I just think like that's what the public, they may want that now, but if you start making a change towards like impactful,
it's like they don't even know what
Like,
they didn't even realize what they were missing. They're like, oh, like it could be this. Like this, I want to see more of that, dude. Same thing. That's what happened with Pulp Fiction.
I agree. So why aren't people doing? Why aren't more people?
Because nobody's thinking of those movies.
Why?
Those movies aren't getting funded.
I'm gonna be controversial. Why are we getting shows like Vida? Where
you called
where I just don't believe in the characters and the representation. And this is something me and Sarah have like discussed. Chris has only seen one episode.
Mm-hmm. It was hot.
I've seen season 1. Oh, it was hot. It started off with a big orgy.
I do have to say I really did like season 1. Like legitimately, if anybody's watching this, I love season 1.
Sarah loved season 1, and I will
season 2. No comment.
I did not see season 2 because I disliked season 1, and I saw the first episode of season 2, and it was better than. I actually thought episode 1 of season 2 was better than season 1, but I just didn't care enough to continue.
I don't like Latino shows.
I
hate them.
It's like I just don't want them in my TV.
Genuinely, I don't though.
What do you mean?
Like I don't like what we have now. Right. I don't care for anything we got now.
How would you classify them? Like when you talk about these Latino shows, like what do you see that you don't like?
I can't say I don't like. It's just more like I'm not like
interested.
I'm not like I'm not. Yeah, like I'm not. My body's not like itching to see it.
You know, someone told me they were like, I told them how I didn't like Vida, and they're like, of course you don't. It's not for you. What do you think?
That could be. That could be. And then that.
Then who is it for?
She said it's for women, mostly queer women. She said, and I was like, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know.
It's tricky, but Sarah, since we're on the topic of
shows,
yeah,
you have a story about, I think, not getting a job at one of these shows.
Yes, a show that will remain nameless.
Zip.
Super nameless.
Yeah, super nameless.
Because I do know people that still work there, and I appreciate and I love them very much.
And Sarah wants to have a job in the future.
And I would like to have a job in the future and also remain
open
friends.
Discussion.
Remain
We're not
friends.
shitting on your show.
Yeah.
But yes, a show that I had a job potentially line up for as a I think it was like writer's PA or something like that, like a support job. I did not get it because my Spanish wasn't strong enough. And this is a show that's in English, but it seems like there's this identity now about who can call themselves how brown are you basically? You gotta be super biliterate and just be bleeding fucking the flag of your home country or something.
You have to have a Mexico jersey. You have to be
If that's the fucking case, then that's why those shows are just so fucking in your face. We were walking around getting high with Justin and the boys. It was nice, and we were just talking about the state of movies or shows, and I was talking I think shows like Vida. I said what I see the most is I said this in a hopeful way. I said right now I feel like women are frustrated because they're finally getting a job, but it's just it's about fucking time. So when you see these shows, I get why they're in your face, why it's chingona level or whatever status or whatever they say. but and that's cool. I know there are people who genuinely fucking rock with that, and that's fucking tight. I think any brown pride is beautiful, but stop making that the parameter too. We're not that extreme. That's our whole fucking point. Even with good stereotypes, a person who's proud of their heritage, or a really shitty cholo, guys or folks, white people, why does it have to be only the two ends of the spectrum? And what about a little middle? Where's that?
I mean, these were brown people making decisions, but just for all the non-Latinx listeners out there, just listing off, brown people or Latinx people that I know, because brown and Latinx are different. Not all Latinx people are brown. I know a Latinx person who's half Japanese and listens to post-punk. Like, I know a Latinx person who's like really into like K-pop. I know a Latinx person who's like a total fucking nerd and just bleeds comic books. You know what I mean? Like, we come on all ends of the spectrum, identity, like gender identities, interests, like, you cannot name something and say that's Latinx. And I think that's why I don't like that term, because it kind of feels like it's constricting us into something.
It's like newly defined. It's like Urban Dictionary eyes now, where it's like, it's not even meant, like they play it off as like, this is a word for y'all, but it's like, it's just their like company power buzzword to use.
I get the feeling sometimes that when people like envision Latinx, they think Chicanx, which is a very, very different thing.
Break it down. Break it, because I don't know what it means. I don't know what's the difference between any of those.
Chicano, Chicanx is just, the like gender neutral form of that, and it's Mexican American. Would you say that it encompasses any like other kinds of brown folks, like brown Americans into it?
For me, Chicano has always felt like an East LA thing.
Yeah.
Even though it's like supposed to be just all Mexican Americans. But I think overall, Chicano culture is very like East LA centered, and that's what people think of when they think of Chicano culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just a lot of like imagery that comes to mind is like Dia de los Muertos, like lowriders, like
Hector,
Saggy,
Lil Rob, Hector's gotta eat.
You gotta get Los Doyers.
Los Doyers up in there. Foos Gone Wild.
Yeah. Shouts out.
Foos Gone Wild. We legitimately love you.
Warning. That's Chicano culture.
That's Chicano culture.
This fool's on a sick one.
The higher the socks, the downer the food.
And I love Chicanx people. I think they're dope, but that's not Latinx, because what the fuck is Latinx?
See,
like, there's no definition for it.
Hollywood will never have fucking the higher the socks, the downer the food.
I don't know. We're getting pretty close. Fucking like, it won't be like. Foos Gone Wild's on Kuko's album.
Kuko
it won't
had an ad in Times Square.
That's true.
Yeah, dude, it won't be long before the Hollyfoos.
Smoking broken windows.
Love that song. Good album.
That's a step in the right direction.
It really is. And we'll be real. We were talking mad shit about that fucking cover art. I still think it's hella ugly. Sorry, but the album, like, I'm just like, dude, this is what we need.
Yeah, it's like you listen to that and you don't think Latinx, but this is a brown kid from Hawthorne who speaks kind of good Spanish sometimes, like.
And that opening with like I remember some people thought it was kind of dumb to open it with like a Foos Gone Wild skit in the opening, but I said like, no guys, you don't realize like now that's like a part of like that's gonna be on Billboard. Like that song is on Billboard. A song called with like the words Foos Gone Wild. Like we've infiltrated like the fucking system.
Food culture is international.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what gets me excited at least.
And that's why this episode is called Hollyfoos.
That's what it is.
We're Hollyfoos.
Bringing it all around. I think we're about to wrap it up.
Yeah. I mean, I guess now we get to the point of the show where we've already discussed, I think, roughly what's holding us back, right? What would you say? You could summarize.
Damn, okay. I think we would all have like different opinions on what's holding us back.
I guess a fun game you can play is when you're watching something, count how many brown people are in it. And if there are brown people in it, what are they doing? What are they talking about? Just start being really, really vigilant in that, because a lot of people, they don't realize the importance of media. They think they can just put something out there and that it's entertainment for entertainment's sake. That shit seeps into your subconscious, and there have been studies that show that things that are represented in media take about 15 years to be reflected in the public. Like interracial marriage, guess what came 15 years before that? I Love Lucy is not a coincidence.
Da, na, 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 na. So when are we gonna feel the ramifications of blood in, blood out? Is that shit fucking happening right now? It's like, yeah, you know what? Foos Gone Wild. Foos Gone Wild is the result of blood in, blood out.
Oh shit.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, because that really started food culture. Like that, I think like food culture is a little bit. It's a sloppier version of Chicano culture. because like Chicano culture is like serious and it's very like they talk like that and they mean it. But food culture is like, what's up, food? It's just like it's like a dumbed down version of.
Yeah, it's just like
it's in the title, foo. It's full
like,
culture.
It's hard to really describe what a foo is, but you know a foo when you see him.
You know a foo.
Justin's a foo.
Yeah, dude, I completely agree with what you just said about how like fuck. Now I'm blanking on what you just said.
Oh
but I was
shit,
thinking
dude.
about
Hi,
how-
Angel.
What did you just say?
That's a dumbed down version.
Representation.
It's a
Yeah,
dumbed down.
the
15 years?
The media. What's holding us back? You said media.
Count how many brown people
Oh,
are
yeah,
there
what
when
we
you watch
say.
something
Okay.
and what are they doing?
That's my issue. My issue was that it feels like everyone is a character. Like they can only have like Mexican dialogue or Mexican iconography or Mexican goals or Mexican character traits. You know, it doesn't feel like someone can just be a half Japanese, listens to post-punk, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Because people are gonna be like, it's not Mexican enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Chicano, where's the sombreros and the gritos?
The
and
tacos.
you know,
Yeah.
shit like that.
And I just also wanted to touch on really quickly, like international representation. Cause I went to school, we didn't talk about this, but I went to school in London and, the student bar had a Mexican night one time and I didn't go because,
I'd be scared.
Me too, I'm like,
because the fucking poster had a sombrero, maracas, and a drunk man like falling off of a donkey. And I was
That's
like,
me every
this
weekend.
this is what they think of us. Like,
Hey,
when
come
the
join us.
international
yeah, and you're not wrong. Come
community-
fucking party. Come on, that's London though.
Hey, come join us for Mexico.
Dude, that's like pristine white.
But
Like
that's what
And
the-
no, London's a really international place. There's a big brown culture in terms of Middle Eastern people. There are a lot of Asian people
lot of
there.
black folks.
Like,
Well, I don't see that represented.
Super multicultural.
Exactly.
Well,
Well, you gotta watch. You gotta watch BBC shows.
I do.
BBC
I
shows
do.
are pretty.
No, I
pretty
bet.
diverse.
BBC,
Without Mexicans.
BBC shows are getting a little bit better with all their like BAME schemes and stuff.
But you make a good point. Like that's what the.
That's
world,
yeah,
That's what
I
the
hear what you're saying. Yeah, that's the
world
international view of us.
Yeah, that's
That
what they
fucking
think.
sucks.
That's what they think. They think we're just all like a bunch of like dirty drunk people that are like bringing drugs illegally and like stealing shit, you know.
I think
And
that's why. I think that's kind of why I hate Coco.
Someone's gonna comment. Where's the lie though?
Yeah,
Coco?
yeah, Coco. I did not think was very good.
Comments tear them apart.
Do it, rip me.
You didn't cry.
No, I did cry. I thought it was moving, but it almost felt. I don't want to say manipulative, because Disney and manipulative. Come on, but never. But I said never. But but come on, like all these years to get. And I wasn't waiting, like, oh, we finally got Coco. Yeah, I wasn't waiting for it. It was a nice little surprise they dropped on us. But all that time to make our first Brown movie be just another liar revealed story, that is so boring. And literally down to the ending where the cameras fucking fling over to Ernesto de la Cruz and he's like, you think I like those fucking people out there? They're idiots. I was like, oh no, they know I'm a terrible person.
Get them out of my country. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Whoa, yeah. So I'm like, really? I'm like, that's the ending to Over the Hedge.
Come on, Disney.
Damn.
Come on, Disney.
It took 2 people to direct this. Look at this.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, but you know why? Because one of them's white.
But
one of them's brown.
that movie. I mean,
Just letting you know.
it's nice and everything, but like I kind of want to move past already Day of the Dead stuff. Like, all right, like we literally got 2 of those fucking movies.
That's true.
The one's called Coco, and the other one's called like Day of the Dead.
I think it's called like. Oh no, it's called The Book of Life.
There you go, fucking Guillermo.
That
del
movie,
Toro.
that movie was cool. I don't care. That movie was cool.
That's fine, but I'm like, I want to see less of that because I'm not saying those things shouldn't be celebrated, but it's like stop
I'm
sanitizing,
tired.
stop sanitizing, us.
Oversaturating.
Yes. Good word.
That's a pretty good word.
just
word.
like for any media creators out there, think of your most typical ass white show and just replace those with brown people.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
That's all I wanna
That's
make.
all you have
That's
to
all
do.
we want to make. That's
That's
literally all we want to make.
I
It's not
want
gonna be that crazy.
Fucking brown Mad Men. I
wanna
want that.
I want to see a Latino Friends. What do you want to see? There, me and Sarah just said Latino Mad Men, Latino Friends.
Well, brown Mad Men.
Brown Mad Men.
I want to see Brown La La Land, and I'm already doing that.
He's what's it called? Speaking it into existence.
But also
no-
just like brown comedies where people
Yeah.
aren't stupid.
Yeah, no, and like no, I mean like you can embrace
Or
stupid, but like
real.
not
But they're
not
not, like,
yeah,
pandering.
exactly.
They're not
exactly.
fucking Gabriel Iglesias, chubby bunny, loud squeaky noises.
You know peak of representation? Fucking Pablo Francisco.
Who?
Oh, you don't know the comedian Pablo Francisco?
No.
Fuck. This is. Forget about it.
I'm
This
biracial.
is not your
Okay,
finest
let me,
hour.
let me redo it. You know what peak representation? Carlos Mencia.
I'm not cutting that out.
You know who Carlos Mencia is.
Yes, I do.
I do.
I just fuck you.
Fuck Chris.
Fuck Angel.
Chris. Fuck Sarah.
Fuck you.
Fuck this podcast.
Fuck this podcast.
Not even my podcast.
You didn't like Carlos Mencia?
No.
Neither did I.
All right.
Let's move on.
Looks like this is the ending.
Yeah, we got to our points.
Just kidding.
Well, I guess I want to close a good thing to close off with. Y'all are working on something yourself. Do you want to talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah.
The future begins here. I don't want. We'll save the details for another time. But me and Sarah are writing a pilot for a TV show that's gonna
featuring
Y'all are really excited about it.
brown people, but it's not a brown show.
But it's got a lot of spice and flavor. And it's so fiery.
Very muy caliente, muy caliente.
It's the most caliente show of the summer.
Is there an overly angry / aggressive, like hot, like Latin chick at the center of all of it with big titties?
Hell no.
Oh no! Oh no!
Hollywood's
She's
like,
just a
then why am I watching this?
normal ass brown woman.
Then is it
who
really a
likes
Latin household?
Hip-hop.
Yeah, it's like,
If the wife's not hot,
it's like, where's the big titty?
where the spicy mamacitas? That's what the kids want.
Yeah, and like Sarah's in the room, like while they're saying this. Sweetheart, I'm only telling you the truth. Anyway, our show.
I just love the idea that Sarah would allow herself to walk into like a fucking 90s like studio. Everyone's smoking cigars like a wine. It's like, so kid, you want to make your next picture with the Pinnacle Pictures?
Yeah, hey, sweetie, come take a seat in.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
Read your script. I thought it was cute. No, sorry, go ahead.
I think our show is gonna fucking change the game.
Yep.
You can quote me right now.
Yep.
That shit is gonna be fucking.
And how does this show influence what you want to see? My final question.
Oh, okay. Sarah, you answer first.
Like I said, they're just normal ass people. Like when I tell people the concept of the show, I don't mention that they're brown or Latinx
Good.
until I get more in depth, and then their character name informs that. It's not
Oh,
like
always, yeah.
It's not in the description, you know, like you said, it's not a fiery ass Latina or like a proud,
be.
like, you know, Chicano boy or some shit like that.
Cute, but in a slutty way.
It's just guy.
That's like some fucking character description. You fucking.
Oh my god.
I've read that before.
Just main characters, Hugo and Lola, normal ass brown
Normal?
folks.
Shout out Hugo and Lola.
Hugo and Lola. I like it because I want to finally see like a brown food go to community college and another brown person go to like school in Oregon and shit. And just like, and it's not like a struggle. It's not like they studied all night to pass their SAT and they barely got into college. It's just
Because
like,
their mom's getting evicted.
Yeah, because their mom's getting evicted and this is the only chance to save the neighborhood.
Yeah, and like don't get me wrong, you know, like they are still brown people in this world. It's not like we're gonna pretend that
like,
they don't face any sort of obstacles or hurdles or anything, but their brownness isn't centered. It doesn't define who they are as a person in all of their actions.
Hell yeah. And so look on the horizon for it because it's gonna be fucking incredible.
Well, that answer for sure wraps up my feelings, my thoughts completely as well. I think the more we do things like this, the more we assemble people together. Like even Oscar, I know he's just on his laptop here, but what he doesn't realize
he's part of the wave.
He's part of the wave. Like he's literally cruising.
So let's wrap this shit up. Let's wrap this little. Oh wait, hold on. Let me get into my Mexican voice.
Orale, carnal.
Orale, carnal. I think we're done here tonight, right?
I think I feel you, Holmes.
I agree, Rudy.
Hey, what's up, fool?
What's up, fool?
That's a real fool.
That's
Hey,
real.
what's up? Can I get some hot Cheetos, fool? We all do that.
It's more like Takis.
I will. You know what? representation will meet my standards when we get that guy on screen. When we get a guy that's just like, hey, what's up, fool? Can I get some hot chinos, man?
But because we do have that, but like not in a character way. Like I want a genuine foo.
You know who's a genuine almost foo? There's a guy on the show Euphoria, which I love. His name's Fez, and he's just like, he's a drug dealer, but he's like so authentic, and he's dumb, but he's not like a caricature dumb.
Now that you're bringing up Euphoria, I do have to say shout out to the character Maddie, brown character who's not centered in brownness.
And you only know she's brown when we're at her house and her mom is. I love the fucking show. Her mom talks in Spanish and she replies in English.
Yeah.
And that's
how it is.
dynamic.
That's how it works.
It's fucking genius. And we'll leave it at that. That's the kind of shit I want to see. More shows like Euphoria. Boom.
Back that shit up. Thanks, Drake. I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Hell yeah. Thank you for sitting down, listening to us talk shit about white people.
I think it was a little more critique on us.
Yeah, that's true.
White people are
About brown people.
That's right.
Critique on everybody, a little wholesome critique.
We all have places we can grow. Hollywood has places it can grow.
Yeah, look, just because we're not meeting expectations now doesn't mean the game's over forever. You still have a chance to ride this wave before we completely
Get on
evacuate you.
Every time you make a creative choice, just think like, how could this be, interpreted? How could this affect someone?
Yeah, think about your fucking stories a little more, goddamn screenwriters. Instead of writing fucking stories about a gay, undocumented, fucking homeless immigrant who's a fucking prostitute.
You called
Doing my
it.
thing.
You called it.
She's like,
Like, fucking, I don't doubt that a person like that exists. But when that's all the fucking story is, fuck you.
Where is Brown Seventh Heaven?
We have to unite ourselves too. Yeah. At the end of the day,
We gotta
that's
stop-
why people like Macro are killing it. That's why black creators are killing it, dude.
They're
They're
unified.
thinking about the greater good, and
Yeah.
we should all be thinking
Yeah.
about the greater good. At the end of the day, we all gotta be on the same page.
Well, let's hope the future is a little brighter.
It will be.
And with that, we end another episode of the Us Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Sarah Neal, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
coming
thank
on
you.
and being a fucking awesome contributor to this roundtable episode.
Do you have any plugs
Anytime.
you'd like to give us before we sign off?
Follow Sarah on Instagram.
You can follow me at Sarah Neal. That's SarahNeal. And just watch that space. I don't post very often, like about creative stuff, but once our pilot gets up and running and our other projects, it'll get
You're gonna want to jump on
a little
early.
busier.
You're gonna want to jump on early for this shit.
You can find me there on Instagram and Twitter.
Perfect.
Twitter's a little funnier.
Perfect. And you know our ads. You don't need to be reminded. Oh, shout out to Sam.
Fuck yeah.
Beautiful
the
Samüel.
Dopest, oh my god, the
For
fucking
doing-
dope. Look at this. The dopest fucking
Prettiest
thing
cover
in the
art
world.
ever, dude.
Mwah. Hopefully that
Sarah,
works.
like right now, because Sarah doesn't have that picture, so she's just like.
You're just gonna put an image over my face.
Sorry, Sarah.
Just like, yeah, that's it for us. This was.
I don't know what number this episode is.
This was the Us Podcast.
Oh, this was the Us Podcast. It still is and will forever be.
Level 2. Because even when we lose, we win.
You gotta say that, Sarah. Even when we lose,
All I do is win. I win no matter what.
that
Works for me.
me.
Bye.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris. Thanks for listening to another fucking awesome episode of the Us Podcast. Level 2. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow at the Chris Carmona.
You can follow me at Angel I Salinas _
Make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at Us Podcast and check out our YouTube channels because we really need that support from y'all right now.
Listen to us on Spotify. Listen to us on Apple Music. Listen to us on Stitcher. Literally anywhere you can get your podcasts.
You literally have no fucking excuse not to listen to us. Bitch.
Whoa!
I'm back, baby! Just kidding. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Oh, thanks, y'all.
Holy shit! Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.